डॉक्टर बाबा साहेब आंबेडकर ओपन यूनिवर्सिटी.
Namaskar dear students and learner of this course. I am Professor Kamesh Rawal. I welcomes you in the video lecture series of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University. We were discussing a subject called Fundamental of Computer and Information Technology. From the last session onwards, we have started your discussion of block number 2, right? So in the block number 2, basically we are focusing on different type of memories and IO devices. Fine. So let us start our today's session. Okay. So I think in the last session, we have briefly discussed a primary memory, right? So basically primary memory is made from the circuits. Different type of primary memory we have discussed. The first is a register, which is available in a small amount of size, but it's a very costly memory. It is the fastest memory. Then one more memory is there, which is called cache memory, right? So that register and cache memory both are actually made from the flip-flops. They are costly memory, available in a smaller size, right? Registers are available in the form of bytes. And let's suppose if we'll talk about a cache memory, then it is available in the form of MBs, few MBs, right? Okay, then we have seen what is primary memory, what is a random access memory, and what is the another memory which is called read-only memory or ROM, right? Okay, I think in the last session, one more topic was there which is called a cache memory, right? But due to the time limit, I could not enhance that particular topic which is related to the cache memory. So see, basically what happened, you have let this is your random access memory is there, right? So this is your random access memory and this is your CPU, okay? So CPU. Now between this CPU and a random access memory, we are placing cache memory, okay? Now basically cache memory is always made from flip-flop. They are very fast, right? So let's suppose if CPU is accessing this particular cache memory, then suppose it needs a 10 millisecond, okay? But suppose if the CPU want to access the random access memory, in that case it needs 100 millisecond, right? It needs 100 millisecond if CPU wants to find or fetch some data directly from the random access memory. Now see, what happened actually, let's suppose if you are starting the program, okay, so in that case, if we are not using a cache memory, okay, so we don't have a cache memory, we are directly accessing the programs and data whatever is available in the random access memory to the CPU. So obviously let's suppose if you are opening any of the program directly from the random access memory, so obviously it needs what, 100 millisecond. Suppose if you close down the program and again if you are opening the same program, again it needs 100 millisecond. Again if you are closing the program, again if you are opening, suppose if the same thing, the same program, if you are closing and opening it for 7 times, so you know that here to access the same program from the random access memory will require what, 700 millisecond, because each time to access the random access memory what we need is we need 100 millisecond. Okay, now you just think, let's suppose if we are using or we are placing a cache memory, okay? So now see what happened when you are opening a program for the first time, the CPU, this is your CPU, okay, and the CPU will check a cache memory. So if the program is not available in the cache memory, so CPU will go into this main memory and this program which is there in the main memory, it will be loaded into the cache memory, right. So obviously here we are accessing a main memory and that takes 100 milliseconds. Now again the CPU will fetch the detail from the cache memory, okay. So in that case what happened, again it will take a 10 more milliseconds. So suppose the program, if you are opening for the first time, you need what, 110 millisecond, right. Okay, so it will take somewhere around 110 millisecond to open the program for the first time. But now you just think, let's suppose if you are closing the program and if you are opening it again, in that case what happened? Now the CPU will check the program is available in the cache memory. If yes, because you know recently when we have opened that program for the first time, that program get copied into the cache memory and it is there, right. So now the CPU will directly you know fetch that particular program from the cache memory itself, and you know it will be loaded. So second time, you know, say if we'll talk about a second time, it needs only it needs only 10 millisecond, okay. Similarly, if you are opening the same program again, so every time now if you are opening that particular program, the CPU needs only 10 millisecond. Why? Because the thing is the program is there in the cache memory and cache memory takes a lesser time because it is a faster memory, okay. So let's suppose if we are opening a program for the 7th time, okay. So in that case, whenever you are opening the program for the first time, it needs 110 millisecond. But afterwards, if you are opening that program, closing and opening that same program again and again for 6 more time, it takes a 60 minute, you know. So the total cost of opening and closing the same program for 7 time, it will cost somewhere around, you know, 170 milliseconds. But suppose if you are not using a cache memory, in that case, if you are fetching the program directly from the random access memory, in that case it will take somewhere around 700 millisecond, okay. So this is what the fundamental of cache memory is there. If you are putting a small amount of cache memory, it will improve the performance of the CPU by 93%, right. So here to improve that performance, what we are doing is between the CPU and your random access memory, we are placing one more memory which is called a cache memory, okay. Now you know, in the last session we have discussed all those different type of memory which are actually made from the circuits, right. So they are called a primary memory, okay. Now we will in this in our today's session, we will focus on a secondary memory. What are the secondary memories are there? What are the characteristics of the secondary memory? How many different type of storage devices are there? Right. So let HDD is a hard disk drive, SSD it is called solid state drive, and external hard drive, okay. Now we'll talk about a secondary memory. So see, primary memories are usually faster, right. So that's we know. They are costly and available in a smaller size. For example, if you talk about registers, they are available in the size of bytes. If we will talk about a cache memory, obviously it is too much costly, and you know it is again available in the form of MBs. Even if we will talk about a random access memory, so nowadays what you are getting is 8 GB or 16 GB of RAM is available, right. They are actually very costly. Yes, they are a faster memory, okay. It is intended to help CPU by providing faster memory space. So here see what happened, these memories are basically used to provide help to the CPU, right. So whenever the CPU is doing a processing work, at that time because of our CPU is a faster, we need a primary memory which is actually faster and which can work with the CPU, right, okay. And that's why we are using the primary memory, even though they are costly, right. The main important benefit that we are getting from the primary memory is they are faster, and we know that the CPU is again a faster. So to work with a CPU, right, we need a primary memory, okay. The drawback of the primary memory is what? In the last session we have discussed, right. The primary memory is a volatile in nature, means the primary memory can store the data if you are giving continuous power supply. If you are discontinue the power supply, then whatever content is there in the main memory or random access memory, that will be erased, Okay, yes, another memory is there, primary memory, which is called a read only memory. But see what happened in the case of read only memory, you know, the chip is returned once, then we can't do any kind of alteration, right? So obviously CPU is not actually using a ROM, right, because it is not write operation is not permittable in ROM, right? It's a read only memory, the memory which will be used only for reading purpose. Fine, and that's why, you know, the RAM is a volatile, ROM is not allowing a writing operation. Due to that reason, we are using a secondary memory, right? So secondary memories are intended to provide a permanent storage, right? If you are if we'll talk about a primary memory or a random access memory, they are volatile in nature. So once you switch off or shut down the machine, the content whatever is there in the random access memory, that will be erased, right? But here in the case of, you know, secondary memory, right, whatever data, whatever files you are creating on the hard disk or SSD or external hard disk, right, that will remain as it is. Even though you shut down the machine, you switch off the machine, once you restart the machine, you will get whatever data you have placed on the secondary memory back again. Okay, fine. Now the last point is, usually secondary memories are cheaper compared to the primary memory. So this memory is cheaper. It is available in a larger size, right? So let's suppose if we'll talk about a hard disk, so 1 TB of hard disk or 1 TB of SSDs are available, right? And that is providing a permanent nature. So here several benefits are there of using a secondary memory, right? It is a cheaper, so you need to spend a less cost. It can store the data permanently, and it is available in the larger size. The drawback of the secondary memory is it is slow, and CPU never interact with the secondary memory directly, right? So to help CPU, we need to install one more memory, which is called a primary memory, between the CPU and secondary memory. Okay. Now, what are the characteristics are there of the secondary storage? So a secondary storage is a physical device on which the computer system keeps data, information, program or application. So let's suppose if you are creating your biodata, your CV, and if you are saving it, obviously it will be saved on the secondary memory called hard disk, right? Even though if when we are installing the operating system or when we are installing any of the program, right, so those programs, those operating system will be stored on the secondary memory, right? Okay, hard disk, SSD, USB, flash drive, which is also known as a pen drive, CD-ROM, DVDs, smart card, RFIDs, NFC tag, right? So these are the different examples of the secondary storage. Okay, by nature the secondary memories are slower, and CPU do not interact with the secondary memory directly. When the data is accessed from the secondary memory, then that gets transferred into the primary memory. So as we have already discussed that the secondary memory is already slow, and the CPU never interacts with the secondary memory directly. So when you are opening any of the program, at that time what happened, that particular program's binary get transferred from the secondary memory to the primary memory, and once the program or data will be copied from the secondary memory to primary memory, then the CPU will start processing it, right? Here mainly two terms are there. One is called a reading. Reading means what? Let's suppose if you have we can say if you have a random access memory, like this is your random access memory, and if we'll talk about a CPU, okay, so this is your CPU. So if a CPU is giving some data to the random access memory, and suppose that data will be stored in the random access memory, so we will call this operation as a writing operation. Here, the memory will write the data whatever is given by the CPU. Right. Similarly, you just think of a reverse process. Some data is there. Let's suppose some data is there in the random access memory, and CPU needs that data to perform a processing, right? So here, the CPU takes data from the random access memory, and this operation is known as reading operation, right? So here, you know, reading means if we are reading a memory, we are taking the data from the memory, so that is called a reading, right? And let's suppose if you have some data and if you are writing it in the memory, right? If you are storing it into the memory, then we can say it is a writing operation. So these are the two terms are there. Okay, fine. Now characteristic of the secondary storage. So mainly when we are buying a secondary storage, we need to focus on mainly two things. One is called storage capacity and second is the access time. Storage capacity, that is what is the actual capacity, how much data we can store on that particular secondary memory is called a storage capacity. For example, let's suppose if you talk about a 1 TB, that means 1 terabyte of data that you can store on the hard disk, right? So that is a storage capacity. Obviously, if memory has that memory which has a larger storage capacity, that will be a good memory for us, right? Obviously, we need to buy that memory who serves a large amount of storage capacity. Okay, second thing is the access time. Access time means, let's suppose if you are performing any kind of read or write operation into the memory, then how much time will be taken by that memory to read or write the data, right? So obviously those memory which takes a higher time, right, they are actually slow memory, right? So when we are buying any kind of memory from the market, we just need to check the access time. Those memory are a faster memory whose access time is a lower or smaller, right? Okay. Now if we'll talk about a storage capacity. So you know, the capacity of the storage means the number of bytes that you can store or hold by a particular secondary memory, right? The smallest unit of the memory measure is 1 byte, right? 1 bit, you know, 1 bit is a single digit binary number that can be either 0 or 1. Now if you collect 8 bits together, what you have is you have a 1 byte. So here I have mentioned, let's suppose if you talk about 1 byte, so 1 byte is equivalent to 8 bit, then 1 KB, it's called kilobyte, that is equivalent to 1024 bytes. 1 MB, it is equal to 1024 KBs. 1 GB, it is equivalent to 1024 MBs. 1 TB, it is equivalent to 1024 GBs, and 1 PB, it is known as 1024 terabytes. Okay. Now we'll go ahead with the access time, right? So what is actually the access time? So access time is actually made from a 2 parameter, right? It is a summation of 2 parameter. Now which 2 parameters are there? The first parameter is called a seek time and second parameter is called a latency time, right? So basically when we are talking about a hard disk, so hard disk is, you know, it is actually a circular platter which is made from aluminum or glass, right? And the surface of that particular platter will be a magnetized surface. Now that particular surface has a small concentric tracks are there. I will just show you, right? This is the photograph, right? Here hard disk platter is shown, and you know that the entire circle is divided into a small concentric circles, right? These circles are known as a tracks, right? Okay. So see what happened, let us assume that we have a hard disk and that hard disk is having a many small concentric tracks, right? Now see, you have a read write head, right? So if you want to write a data on a particular track, what you need to do is you have to pick up your head and you have to put that head on a particular track, right? So the time will be taken by that read write head to place on a particular desired track on which you want to perform a read or write operation, right? That time is called a seek time, right? So seek time, that is what, it's a time taken to move the head, right, on a desired track on which you want to perform a read or write operation, right? Okay, one more is called a latency time. Now see what happened, the track again are divided into a small sectors, right? Now you just think, let's suppose you have placed the hard disk on a particular track, but you know the sector from which you want to read or write the data that already passed below the head. Okay, so now what you need to do is, so you need to rotate the disk by using a motor, right? And then when that particular sector which you want to read or write, that will come below the read write head, right? So that rotation time, right, rotation time, here we are rotating the disk so that the particular sector which we want to read or write will come below read write head, and head can read or write that particular sector. That time is called a latency time. So when we are talking about a disk, you know, the hard disk is suffering from this two main time, seek time and latency time, and sum of this seek time plus latency time is what it is called disk access time. Okay, here I have shown a different type of hard drives. So mainly there are three type of hard drives are there. The first the first hard drive is it's we can say this one, it is known as what, it is a hard drive. Then this is called SSD drive, right, it is a solid state drive. And one more, this is called we can say USB portable, right, hard drive. Okay, now hard disk. So hard disk is, it's a secondary storage device that contains one or more circular platters, right. I will show you the image so that you will come to know what actually the thing we have written here, that has a magnetic particles on the surface to store the data, information, program or application. A platter of HDD hard disk drive is made from either aluminum, glass or ceramic. So any aluminum, glass or ceramic kind of material can be used in the hard disk, right. But on this disk, right, the surface will be magnetized, right. A thin coating of alloy which is called a magnetized material that is placed on the surface of that disk. The surface of the disk is divided into number of concentric circles, and these circles are known as tracks. Not only that, each track are further divided into a pie shaped segment, and that is called sectors. So see here, the circles, the circles are there. I have mentioned that thing, tracks are there. Then between two tracks there is some gap is there, so it is mentioned as a inner track gap. Then the tracks are divided into S1, S2, S3 kind of thing, that is called the sector, right. And between two sector some gap is there. Okay, each sector can store 512 bytes of data, right. Okay, now there are two type of hard disk are there. In some hard disk, the head is there, something like this. Here the head, it is a movable head, and the track, if you want to put a head on a particular track, you have to move that track, right. So here the movement arrow is shown. Second type of hard disk is there, in which the rod will not be moved, right. So the rod of the head will not move, but here on every track they have placed a small head, right. So the head exists on every track, right. And here what you have is, you have a circuitry which will take a decision on which track the data has to be written or read, right, and it will activate that particular head, right. So here in the case of fixed head, the time taken by the circuitry to activate a particular head is called a seek time. Okay, obviously latency time will be a rotational time of the disk. Okay, now see, it will not like there is only one platter is there, there are multiple platters are there. So this is a stack of the platter, and on both the side, on both the surface of the platter, the data will be read or write, right? We can write the data on both the surface of platter. So here, you know, there are multiple disks are there, and to perform a read or write operations, there are central shaft is there, right? Central shaft is basically rotating all the disks together. So central shaft is actually connected with the motor, and motor will rotate the entire spindle, which will have a multiple disk, right, together. One more memory is there, which is called SSD. It is a solid state drive, right? So solid state drive, you know, it is somewhere around, we can say here, the same type of memory. I think in the last session we have discussed ROM, then PROM, then EEPROM and EEPROM. So after EEPROM, you know, a new memory is invented, which is called a flash memory, right? Flash memory, which normally we are using in the pen drive. So that is much more faster than the hard disk, right? It's a non-volatile memory. So what they have done is similar, like you know, on the pen drive you will get a one small chip, right? But here multiple chips they have embedded in the solid state drive. So what are the benefits which we are getting from the SSD? The first benefit is, you know, the read and write operation will become more faster, because, you know, here you do not have to move the head here and there, you do not have to rotate the disk, so there is no mechanical part is there. So, you know, the reading writing operation is much more faster in the case of SSD compared to HSD. Second, you know, the another benefit is what, there is no mechanical part is there, so the life of this SSD is more longer, right? So it is a more faster, more reliable memory than HSD, but the thing is, you know, it is a little bit costly. Okay. One more memory is there, which is called external hard drive. Now see, actually what external hard drive is there, here either HDD or SSD will be used, right? But the thing is, you know, that is having one cable, and that is a USB cable, so you can attach the HDD or SSD directly to the system using USB port, right? So usually this type of hard drives are, you know, smaller, lightweight, right? And that is basically used to extend the capability of or storage capacity of the hard disk, right? They provides a portability. You can bring that external hard drive from one location to another location. Okay, fine. So I think in our today's session, mainly we have focused on secondary memory. We have discussed what is a characteristic of the secondary memory, and we have discussed main three type of secondary memories. They are the hard disk, SSD drives, and external hard drive. Fine, we'll meet in the next session and we'll discuss few more topics which is related to the same chapter, right? Till then, take care and bye bye.